Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Million Opinions. I am Carlton D'Souza, and in today's episode, we have Hernando Planells. He is the technical director of NBA schools in Dubai, a TV and film sports coordinator, a leadership and connection speaker, podcast host for Be Contagious, a former basketball coach for the G League NBA, worked with world-class athletes in Duke University, and also has international experience in coaching. Hernando Planells, welcome to Million Opinions.
Listen, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to have you just introduce me all the time. Wherever we go, we're going to go on a road trip around the world. I'm going to have you, Carlton, just introduce me. That's awesome, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Hernando. When I invited you last week, I guess, and I asked you a little bit about yourself, you said something really powerful. You said that you wanted to be the dad that your children think that you are. So can you please tell us, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm a dad, as you just said, right? And that's, at the end of the day, that is my central core of who I am. All those other things you mentioned is just a byproduct of what I believe my purpose is and then being a dad. But, when you're growing up, your kids, they love you so much. You are their hero. And even though they see you in a different light as ourselves, right? For me personally, all the ups and downs, the miscues, the failures, the ups and downs, it's like, it beats you up during the course of your life. And the kids just look at you like, you're just my dad, and I love you, and I want to be that person. Not to say I'm not, but, we all see ourselves in just a different way. And for me, on paper, everything looks amazing in my life, but I've missed so much time with them. I'm divorced. I work in different countries, in different fields. So for me, I look at myself as I want to strive to be that dad who they look at every single day. And I can't believe you're trying to get me emotional on this first question, Carlton, but it is, to me, it's my most important job. It's the best job I've ever had, and it's the toughest but most rewarding job I've ever had in my life.
Well, I have a lot of questions because your life is like an open book.
Yes, it is.
I know being parent is very high in value for you.
Yeah.
However, I want to speak to the basketball coach right now.
Yeah.
So a few questions I have for the basketball coach. What inspired you to get into coaching, and how has that changed over the time?
Well, I wanted to coach. Well, I played for a long time. I can't say I was a star player. I can't come in here and be like I averaged 25 points per game or I was all everything. I was just a nice basketball player. I love the sport. I love all sports, in fact. But I wanted to get into coaching because, quite honestly, I thought it was really cool to stand there on the sidelines with a suit and yell at everybody and tell people what to do, right? That's what I thought coaching was. And over time, you realize that coaching is so much more, right? It's relationships. It's being transformational. I know that's a word that gets thrown out all the time, but you really make an impact with the students that you have, no matter what it is. So in the beginning, coaching was about me. Coaching was about what I can do, how I can win, how I can be the successful person. And now over time, it's not about that at all. Even how I run the NBA basketball school Dubai, it's a decentralized leadership altogether. Yes, I am the technical director, but the reality is the decisions, the thoughts, the best moments happens with my coaches who I trust incessantly, 100% at their ground level, because they are with the kids every single day. And I think it's really, really important that as a coach, as a head coach, no matter what you are, even as a dad, you empower the people around you. And I think that takes trust. It takes just throwing it out there and say, listen, I don't know you very well, but I trust you. And that empowers someone to a point, because character always reveals itself later. So my first meeting with my coaching staff, I said, guys, listen, I don't know you. We just met. This is my first meeting, but I trust you guys, right? Because over time, who you are will come out. Not to say I question who you are, but the reality is it just comes out as an individual. So let's do what we have to do. We know as coaches how powerful we can be and make an impact, and let's do that every single day.
The balance of coaching and your personal life and the toll that it takes on your family as well. How did you manage that one?
Yeah, I think it's constantly managing. And I don't necessarily like the word balance, right? It's blend, right? Because the reality is when you're a coach, yes, you have your own family, but you are in my case, a father figure to so many. Now, that means different for different things, right? When you're a coach in the United States, right, you're more of a father figure because the reality is what do the family makeup look like there? Here, it could be different. What does the head coach here look like because the family dynamics are different? When you blend things together, now you get the best moments because we can't just shut it on and off, right? My text messages are always on, WhatsApp is always on, emails is always on. That's just the way it is because you may be needed in some capacity, either your coaches or your players or staff or the business or the NBA. It doesn't matter, right? You're 24/7. And for me, though, I'm used to it, right? I'm used to it. I joked around. I think I told somebody, they asked me how many, I've been to 48 countries. And every single country has become, because I've gone there because of work. It's not like I plan a vacation. It's like I have to work, or I have to do a camp, or I have to do a clinic, or I have to go recruiting. So you have to blend it together. And that means when you have a family, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm divorced, you got to find the right partner who understands that. So you could have open communications. And open communications with your partner, but also your children as well too, and the people you work with. So when you practice open communication, it starts at the home, how you were raised, how you're brought up, then you're able to really expand and find ways to blend it in a healthy way that allows you to lift everybody up.
You know, you're opening up about your personal self, and that's very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
You don't mind if we go there, do you?
No, I tell you what, like you mentioned earlier, it's about being an open book. And I think that in order to lead effectively, to love effectively, to find joy in everything, you have to come to grips with who you are, right? And when you could stare at yourself in the mirror, right, and see, besides all the wrinkles as you get older, right, you see yourself, and people love the word authentic. I'm going to try not to use it, but when you could see yourself for who you are and say, wow, this is really cool what I've done, man, I could have done this differently. What can I learn from it? And I do believe one of my missions in life is to share with people, because I'm not a championship coach. I didn't win 5 NBA championships. I'm not known throughout the world. I'm just like everybody else. We go through our struggles, and if we could help each other out, then ask away, man. I'm ready for you. Ready for this, girl.
Thank you so much, Hernando. I am going to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
I am going to ask you questions on your personal life, but before that, you've been in 48 countries. Mm-hmm. How is the UAE different?
I mean, this place is unreal. I mean, let me just say this. It's like utopia. I actually heard someone say that the other day, so I'm stealing the word. Thank you for whoever gave me that word, right? But you are in a place where the people are amazing. It reminds me of LA, New York. People talk about the traffic here. Listen, the traffic isn't as bad as LA, New York, but the different cultures, the different food. What really stands out is the safety. It is the options of food, as I mentioned, but also just the care for citizens, the cleanliness around. I mean, everything. It's you just pop in. There's been no point of me where I've had this transition of getting to live in another country. In other countries I've lived in, I've visited, there's a period of time where am I going to buy my milk? Where am I going to go for a walk? What are the best places to eat, visit? Here, it's not. It's laid out to you, right? So for me, the transition was so much easy.
And you worked with world-class athletes all over. How can we make world-class athletes right here in UAE? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think winning cannot be the sole purpose of it. Right? What does success look like? The issue that we're having with the word winning is that we don't normalize the downs that comes with the ups, right? There's this notion that if I play one game well, then I should play the next game really well, and then the next game after that. So what gets in the way are these expectations. And science tells us, family therapist tells us that when you have expectations, you are going to get hit in the gut because they won't be met. So what are some milestones? What are things that we can achieve? How can we get there? So in winning, becomes sort of the byproduct of the journey, which everyone talks about, right? They talk about the journey of life, but when it comes to their own life, they don't look at it that way. They go, we got to win or lose. When winning becomes a second part of it, and again, let me say this, not to say that winning is not important, but when it becomes a second part of it, now what does success look like? All right, so there's that. The other part is we also have to take the historical context of different countries of how great they are, right? The NBA Academy has NBA Academy India, right? There's billions of people in India, right? But the society itself, how much is it a sports society? I couldn't tell you. Other people know that. Philippines, the same thing. Huge in basketball. Love basketball. But just like me, we're not very tall, right? But there's a passion beyond. But you have to take a look at the history with it. And now how do we develop the athletes? Now the other part of it, which is really, really important, is you have to have a pathway. That pathway cannot change. What you're seeing in basketball in China is that there are different coaches that come in all over China. So there are different styles of play, different thoughts of how basketball should be played. So what happens? China basketball is still very, very good, but I don't think they reached where they thought they were going to be. So we have to have a consistent methodology to move forward no matter how it looks, and you have to give it a period of time. A period of time is not 6 months. It's not a year. If you look at successful coaches in any sport whatsoever, they need time to implement their plan, to find the right people, to trust their people, to gauge and scout to see if this player can actually get to where it's going to be. And then the final part is, yeah, you may have a great athlete, but if you're a great athlete, how are you working on your mental part of it? How are you handling the ups and downs? How are you training? What is your mindset entering a competition? What is your mindset entering a practice? All those things come together. So I think for here, there is a plan. The question I have for any country, any coaching staff, any athletic department, are you determined and devoted to passionately lead your program to the next level by giving whoever you give in charge time?
The challenges that you face as a basketball coach, and how do you navigate it?
Oh, man. You know, I think, first of all, the word challenges is extremely important to use. I use challenges or ups and downs. So I think the number one thing, you have to frame it for what it is, okay? And you have to frame it in a way that's going to feed you so that you can get to the next level. If I say the word hardships, if I say that something is hard or difficult, then it's going to be 10 times harder and more difficult because I already fed that into my soul, into my mind. When I say it's a challenge, in my mind, in my soul, I'm like, all right, it's a challenge, I'm coming for you, right? So basically for me, as I take a look at, all right, what are challenges that we have right now, and what are we going to do to improve it? What are our solutions or possible solutions? Now, I will say something about solutions. They're 50-50. You can make a decision, and it could go bad, or it can go good, right? And that's just what you have to have the courage to make a decision. So there's challenges, then you have to have the courage to attack those challenges, and then from the courage comes the confidence of knowing this is the direction that we want to go. So yeah, I mean, challenges are all over the place. Like, it comes with parenting, it comes with NBA basketball school, it comes with all the other different things, but it's a part of life. And how can we, right, take comfort that we're handling the challenges the best possible way, exiting the outside noise, and then moving forward? That takes someone who is, determined, passionate, has a purpose, and in many ways, dare I say this, unorganized. They like the chaos, because chaos is where true creativity and true success comes from.
What about motivation? You missed out on motivation? Or?
Motivation, I think motivation is a feeling, right? And feelings get in the way of decision-making and pushing through, right? It could be anything. Like, I don't feel like to work out today, right? I don't feel that I want to love my partner today, right? It is the conscious choice, decision that I'm making every day that comes with courage, okay? So, and to me, everything we talk about is coaching, is relationships, romantically or non-romantic, friends, or whatever else it is, right? Whatever we're talking about applies to all of it, right? So if I have to have a hard conversation with my player or with my coach or with my partner, it's got to take courage. I've got to be able to take a deep breath and be like, oh man, I got to have this conversation. And then you take that step forward with it. And when you do that, you feel better, you work on it, but it's the same thing. I'm going to work out today. I'm the courage to get up. When I get up in the morning, do you think I want to get up and go to the gym? Are you kidding me? I want to lay here and take a look at the newest TikTok trends so that I can go ahead and buy a property or be a better, whatever else it is. But you have to be able to sit there, to go in there and say, today and every day, I'm going to make this decision. So the feeling, the motivation goes away. When the motivation goes away, now you are inspiring yourself to be the best version of yourself, right? If I'm motivated, as I mentioned earlier, we talked about, I'm chasing the fact that I want to be the dad that my kids want to see. If I'm fueled by motivation for that, it's going to go up and down. But my job is to be consistent. And when I say job, I don't mean like a regular job 9 to 5. Like that is my mission altogether. So that means I have to consistently do it. I have to go be inspired by choosing me in order for me to be that version that I want to be for everybody else.
You went through a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
How did you manage work then?
Oh, that was hard. So my kids were, I think Preston was 13. My son is Preston. My daughter is Gabrielle, and they're 24 and 21 now, right? But I remember I was married for 12 years, and we were young. We got married, had kids young, had really no idea, and all the things I'm saying now, I didn't know how to do back then, right? I couldn't make a choice. I felt certain things. Well, I was coaching at Duke University on the women's staff, was finally making, good money, good stability. But I traveled, I was gone a lot. And I one day I had to figure out what dad I want my kids to see, right? First of all, divorce is hard. And growing up, people say it's easy to leave a marriage or to get a divorce. It's hard either way. To say I don't want to continue our marriage is extremely difficult for everybody involved. To say I'm going to continue my relationship with you every single day is extremely difficult and hard, right? But I have to change that. I have to understand that I am doing the best I can to show my kids. What I didn't want my kids to see a bad marriage. I didn't want my kids to see their mother disrespecting me and myself disrespecting their mom. And I thought about it long and hard. And I remember the day I walked in the house. We were living in Cary, North Carolina. And she was sitting there and the kids were asleep. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was freeing as soon as I said it, but it was like a ton of bricks hit me because I knew right then and there that it was a reality that everything was going to change. And I remember packing up a bag, and I went to my friend's house. He had an extra bedroom. His family had an extra bedroom, and I would say probably the first month, you have that kind of feeling where you're free but not free. Your kids are upset at you. Like for 7 years, my son he didn't say he was angry at me, but I knew he was angry, right? And my daughter is like, hey, she just, boys and girls are just different when you're raising them. And it was something that I had to do. And no, it escalated because what ended up happening is we separated in January, and I was coaching, and then we were going through a couple months. We were trying to figure out the arrangements and everything else. And then in July, we were doing basketball camp. My daughter came to basketball camp. I dropped her off, and the next day I called her and said, hey, I'd love to see Preston. And she says, you can't. We're already driving back to California, and I was devastated. All of a sudden, my kids are gone. I'm angry. I didn't eat for like a month. I cried, sobbed every day for missing my kids. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is that I didn't regret the decision at all. I regretted how I handled it with my kids. I regretted continuing on with life as if nothing had happened. And that is part of my personality. I make things sound so easy. I make it like, oh, this is no problem. It'll be fine. And I made a mistake. And, went through the whole court system in the United States and everything. And the judge was like, no, they have to stay in California. So now I'm living in North Carolina. So if you know geography, North Carolina is on the East Coast, California's on the West Coast, thousands of miles or kilometers. I can't make I don't know the difference, right? Well, I know the difference, but I don't know how to make the conversion. And so I had to learn. I had to learn how to communicate effectively through phone, through text messages, through the anger of their mother, right? And I do want to say their mom is a great mom. We're friends now. It's taken 9 or 10 years to get there, but you realize that it was the best decision for them eventually if you handle it correctly. And for me, handling it correctly was talking to them, talking to their mom, going through the different processes, understanding, and never putting them in the middle. Now, the first 3 years of it, my ex-wife and I would bicker, and the kids would be right in the middle. So then, some days they're on my side, some days they're on their mother's side. And then I would go to a therapist, and my therapist said, hey, man, you have to think about what you're doing, right? If you want to be, you talk about wanting to have peace, you talk about wanting to be a great dad and a great example, then what part are you playing in not making that happen? And man, I was blown away. I was like, because in those moments, you don't think you're doing anything wrong. You're like, no, I'm standing up for myself. But the reality is I was just in the wrong as she was. And so I remember calling her. I said, listen, I don't argue with you. You're the mom. You do an amazing job as a mom. All right. And I want to support you in that. And she didn't believe me at the time. She was still angry, which I don't doubt. But it was over time that she understood. And I think what I did, and I shared with you, in our meeting, is that, what does that mean? How can I be a great dad? Because there are many times where I was like, they're having a great life. They don't need me to call all the time. They don't need to visit me all the time. But my mom had always said something that you have to do what you promised, right? You have to do it. So what I would do is that I would leave North Carolina, 6 o'clock in the morning, fly to LA, land at 10, go see my mom, go have lunch or something. Then she'd ask me for money because she's always asking me for money. Then pick up my kids, go recruiting, go to dinner, go recruiting, drop them off, and then jump back on a plane, a 4-hour, 5-hour flight, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I did like 2 times a month. I know it's long drawn and everything else, but my divorce is a huge part of my story. It's a huge part of my impact. And it's a huge part of my success because my kids are my greatest people. And it's been an up and down ride, but I'm so thankful for every challenge that came about.
You said 3,000 miles and you did trips twice a month.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the best that you could do as a coach and as a parent?
I don't know if I could honestly say that was the best. I can say that I tried my best based on my period of time in life of where I was. So I had tried to get jobs in California. Now, the way it worked is I had to pay child support and alimony, right? So I call that, my other friends were upset when they had to pay child support and alimony. I call it like my price of admission, right? My price of admission to be divorced and grow myself. So my child support and alimony was like $3,400 a month, which is probably maybe 11,000 dirhams, I think, around there.
Around there.
A month. So I'm paying, them. And so I had to find work that would equal the amount of the salary I was making at Duke. And Duke treated me so well, so it was hard to do. And so I'm going back and forth. I'm trying to make decisions because that money I know goes to the kids, goes to the school, and goes to everything else. So to answer your question, I don't know, man. Like I don't think about those times as much anymore because I want to be present of where I am today. And if there's anything that I did that hurt them, my kids, hurt my ex-wife, it's more like, how can I not make up for it, but how can I be better now in terms of my relationship with her and the relationship with the kids?
What has been the most rewarding aspect of parenthood for you?
Every day, because when you see your kids growing, like right in front of you, you see them taking the best parts of their mom and I, and also the not so great parts of their mom and I. You see your little humans becoming big humans, right? I mentioned my son is 24. He's a college basketball coach, and he was a college swimmer. And here I am going to his games, and he's like coaching, like women, young women, in the college, just like I did just 3-4 years ago. And then when I see my daughter, she's 21, she's in musical theater, and for her to have the courage, she quit basketball playing at 15, but the courage to go to auditions, to sing in front of strangers and dance and be judged like that is the most rewarding thing with it. My kids call me every single day, and I have kids in 2 different states. That's like 12, 13-hour time difference, and I get to sit down and drink my coffee. I hear about their day, but the most rewarding thing is every day. And it'll be like that the rest of my life.
From what I gather, you've done your best when you were going through divorce to be there for your kids. And your LinkedIn post very recently mentioned that your daughter also was there for your son's games.
Yeah.
Although they were in 2 different states.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good example that you've shown for them. And the bond between a brother and sister is also beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So you must be very proud of them.
Yeah, no, it's, my daughter, she works, she has rehearsal, she's in her senior year in college. And they were like 2 hours away. My son was able to play a game, and my son was like, Dad, I'm like really close. I hope Gabby can come. And Gabby drove the 2 hours down, and I posted a video of her cheering her brother on when they scored. And it's great because it reminds me I have a great relationship with my sister. There's my mom had 10 kids. I'm number 9. My younger sister's number 10, obviously 9 and 10. And we were close later on in life. So just seeing that, how the reality, like with siblings, like the sibling relationship is hilarious. My sister could be very upset at me about something and be mad at me all day, and then she'll call me like, what do you want to eat? You know what I mean? Like, it's that type of care that comes with it. And Preston and Gabby have that. And it's, I love seeing it. It's so rewarding.
Healing and growth. So how has going through divorce changed your perspective when it comes to relationships and in life?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. We could just dive into that altogether. So I don't know if this is correct, but this is sort of what I've believed over my experiences, right? So growing up, we are given this thought of what love is. And in the States, it's like Disney movies, basically, right? At the end of it, they fall in love and, it's happily ever after. But the reality is, like, the real movie starts when someone falls in love, and then you go through all the challenges with it. And I think you go through life searching for that. I think it was, I saw Jay Shetty live in San Francisco, and he talked about how I think when you type in on Google how to find, and the first thing that pops up is love, because that's the most thing that people are Googling, how to find love in their life.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's so powerful because it is. When you talk to when I talk to my friends who aren't in relationships, they're always talking about like their dating life or this person, that, or I just want to find somebody, right? And then when you're in the relationship, you're just complaining about the person all the time, right? But it's I think that for me was what it was. And then when I got divorced, I was still searching for that. Like, oh, I just want this, want that. And then over a period of time, I've had different relationships. And the reality is my relationships, about 2-3 years in, they kind of fizzle away because I travel a lot. I'm not around a lot. And I understand it, right? I understand that. But it really became for me a choice. If I'm going to love you, I'm going to make that choice every day, right? When I get up in the morning, I have to make that choice every day. It's an unnatural thing to wake up full of love and life. It's just unnatural. So you have to train yourself to be that way. Now, some would argue, well, you shouldn't have to. If it was real love, then you would feel it. Again, that word feeling, it's an emotion. When people are married for such a long time or in a long-term relationship, it's that choice to do it. So it's changed that for me. So now, what does love look like? Love looks like me being there for you and you being there for me. Not in a servant way, but in a way where I feel your presence and I feel your support and you're my biggest cheerleader and I am for you. Love is the consistency of actions. Love is choosing the person, the actions, the delivery, the listening, the empathy, everything. When there's an issue in a relationship, and I know this because it happens in mine, it did happen in mine, you end up, you stop talking. Like I've had relationships where there's anger and we're both like speaking with so much passion with each other. And I've had a relationship where we never fought. And I think you need both in it. But I think ultimately you have to not want to be right? So if I'm in a relationship with someone, I don't want to be right. I want to be in it with you and understand what your perspective is. Where does your thoughts come from? Conflict builds, if you allow it, builds strong connection. Not in a bad way, not in a negative way, but in a way where it's like, I understand where you come from. I want to feel for that. And then I want to take care of you with that, right? I was in a relationship before, a lovely woman, and she wouldn't share things that had gone on in her past. Not that you have to, right? Although when you share, these are things that have shaped you, right? I'm 48. So if I meet somebody, you have lived a full life. I have lived a full life without you. And ultimately, when we're trying to find love, we're trying to find someone to take care of our scars from before. That's a lot of weight. Like that's that's hard for the other person. But if I know where you're coming from, I am better equipped to say, hey, I hear you. Let's work on this together.
For those who are going through a divorce themselves, what steps did you take that led you to a healing relationship with your ex-wife?
I think the first thing is that I chose, and you have to choose, to not fall into another relationship right afterwards. I mean, healing takes time for either way, right? What tends to happen is when we fall into a relationship with someone else, we are, that relationship is making those feelings come up again, right? Like, oh, I'm excited to see the person. can't wait to talk to them. And not to say that it won't work or doesn't work. It does in many situations. But I do believe that you have to take the time to heal you. So for me, I was struggling for a little bit, so I ended up talking to a therapist, trying to figure out what it was. I avoided having pity parties with other people. I found two people who were very close to me that I could just share certain things. But I would put a time limit on things, right? So I put a time limit on my wins and I put a time limit on my losses. If not, mentally, I'm not going to be able to handle so many different things. So, and of course, this is the discipline I have now. And now, don't get me wrong. When I got divorced, I was not that disciplined. You just learn it over time. But I would say have confidence in your decision. But I also find out why you are making the decision. What has made you get to a point where you no longer want to continue on a relationship with this person? Could be a variety of reasons. And I'm not one to judge what someone should do or not do. You just have to know these are the decisions. Is it worth for me to come back or try or have conversations, or is it worth for me to move on? And only you can do it. But you have to know that there's another person on the other side who is hurting, who is feeling, and at that moment feels like you didn't choose them. And that's the hardest thing of anything. So if you're going through this, if you're going through a divorce, first of all, you could reach out to my Instagram anytime. I'd love to help. And I'm not a therapist, but I think when you're there and you have people around you who aren't picking sides, who ask questions that make you think, then you're in a good place. I kept busy. I kept saying positive things about myself, like I'm a good man, I'm a good dad. Today is going to be a great day. I know that I'll get through it. I shared this with you as well too, and I really believe it. Like, life is a storm, right? You're either going into the storm, you're in the storm, or you're leaving the storm. How you handle the storm is all based on you. Some days you could have an umbrella. Some days you want the storm hitting you in the face. Some days you just want to sit in the storm. And those things are okay, but you have to keep moving forward with it, because moving forward, time doesn't heal, but moving forward and actively healing, choosing, right? Choice is a big thing of what we're talking about all today. Choosing to heal will get you out of the storm for a little bit.
Time doesn't heal.
No.
For those with children, what advice would you give based on your experience, the challenges that you faced co-parenting after the divorce?
Yeah. So I see two different things. My sister is going through a divorce right now, and their co-parenting is really good. They're basically best friends. Her and her ex-husband. For me, it was communication, talking, understanding where she was coming from, and then trying to, hopefully she would understand where I'm coming from. I think communication was a big part of it. We failed at it miserably in the beginning. I think the other part is empowering your kids to have real conversations. So the way it has worked is that my kids always felt, not always, but for a good amount of time, they always felt they can come to me and speak their mind and tell me what's going on. They felt like they couldn't do that with their mom. In some situations, divorced parents would weaponize that. Like, see, you can't talk to your mom or dad, and you should only come talk to me. Or they weaponize it when they're in argument with their ex-partner. Over time, I thought, we can't weaponize it. I'm going to empower, I'm going to encourage my kids to learn how to speak to their mom in a respectful, loving way. Such as, Mom, I know you're worried, concerned, but I want to share with you what's going on with me, and I don't need an opinion. Sometimes I just need a hug. Sometimes I just want you to hear what is happening. And my daughter never had a problem. My daughter is a spitfire, man. She just gives it to you no matter. My son, the sons always have a hard time with their mom because moms love them so dearly, right? And they should. And the sons love that, right? I mean, there's no qualms about it. My sister says it all the time. Mom loved me more, okay? I don't think she did, but that's what my sister believes. So how do you, as a young man, how do you speak to your mom and say, hey, Mom, I love you. You took care of me, but I want you to hear me out. Listen to what I'm saying. Please, I'm not 12 anymore. Because as parents, we see the kid at such a small age. I would say, to my ex-wife, I said, you're seeing the kids as 14 years old. They're 20. My son was a junior in high school. My ex-wife calls me. She goes, Hernando, I don't know what to do. Preston is driving me crazy. I'm sitting here making his lunch. And I said, wait, stop. Hold on a second. How old is Preston? I said, he's 16, right? He goes, yeah, I'm still making his lunch. I said, no. He's got to make his own lunch. If we want him to be the man he is supposed to be, then you've got to give him responsibilities to do it. And she reluctantly disagreed with me. But a week later, he was making his lunches. So it was good. Those are part of the things that you learn from divorce and with reason.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
Now, you are an entrepreneur and also a TV and film sports coordinator. That means you worked as a sports coordinator for movies such as Coach Carter, The Longest Yard, Swagger. It's a series, and there's a series called Running Point very recently on Netflix.
Right.
Wow, I've watched Running Point.
Yes. Number 1 on Netflix, man. Come on.
It's very, very good. How did that journey take place?
Oh. Well, but, as we started this whole podcast, I want to start being a coach. I ended up getting a coaching job on a sport called slam ball, which is full contact basketball and trampolines. It's on and off here and there in TV. And ended up meeting a few people. A guy named Mark Ells calls me one day and says, hey, coach, I need someone to help me to choreograph all the basketball action on a movie. I said, sure, I'd be interested. Showed up, saw the script, and the movie ended up being Coach Carter, Samuel Jackson, Channing Tatum, just an amazing group. That was my very first film ever. So I started getting in production. And I grew up in Los Angeles, but I'd never thought that I'd ever work in film or TV. It was not something I really wanted to do. But Coach Carter sparked something like the creative storytelling side, the emotions that come with it, and then how to make sports action real on camera while following the story points of the script. Such as, okay, so Samuel Jackson played Coach Carter. What is his emotion based on a play that may happen, right? So you're trying to marrying the two with it. So I did a few other movies with that. I was married at the time, and I was like, I have to pick up something more stable. So I got into coaching, which really isn't the most stable job anyways. But I got into coaching. So I'd go back and forth. But while I was in Coach Carter, I met Amy McDaniel. Actually, I met her on Slam Ball. And I would do a lot of film work with her, and I'm coaching. I'm going back and forth. And I met, her name was Jessie Moore. Her name is Jessie Sheldon now. Met her on the movie Just Right with Queen Latifah in Common. And I was like this freelancer going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, we ended up forming this company called Game Changing Films, where I was like a silent, distant partner because I was trying to support my family and my divorce through coaching. But then from there, it just grew. So we produce, whether it's shows, documentaries, we do all the sports choreography, the coordination, the casting, the training, anything that has to do with sports. So it's growing. I think now it's like 15 years with that. I started a leadership company called Be Contagious Leadership. I call it more like a leadership connection boutique, where I just come in and speak with organizations on how they lead, how they connect, what the culture to build, how to bring courage into their environment. And all those things. And so coaching, now NBA basketball school, game-changing films, Be Contagious Leadership, all these things. Now, for me, again, as I mentioned, chaos for me is tremendous. Like I could work through chaos, which is probably why I do a lot of different things. But the other reason why I do a lot of different things is because I'm passionate about all those things, and everything is related together. Sports, leadership, coaching, connection, all of those things. So I worked on 3 films with Adam Sandler. So how do you connect with Adam Sandler and then connect to Chelsea Gray, who plays in the WNBA and Team USA, to my 8-year-old players with NBA basketball school, right? It all ties in together. It is connecting. It's high fives. It's being that smiling face. It's being that energy coming into it. So someone asked me, do I feel that I'm a success with all those, or I must be a success with all those different venues? I don't know if success is the word. I feel productive. I feel fulfilled. I feel that I'm on this ever-evolving mission to where? I don't know, right? But it's ever-evolving to a point where I want to continue to be a great dad. And I want to be of service to the people who trust me in the work that I do.
The personal sacrifices that you had to make for your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, man, personal sacrifices. I don't know if I would call them sacrifices. Because for me, a sacrifice means I'm giving something up. So I kind of believe you could have your cake and eat it too, right? So that, which is one of the reasons why, again, I do so many different things and so many. I think life tries to typecast you into what you should be or who you are. And I think I just go the complete opposite altogether. I think you could do things at a high level that is serviceable and everything else. But I think ultimately your journey that you are on your life, I want to label it not as a sacrifice. They were just all opportunities that I chose to go down a road. And the reason why I frame it that way is because most people suffer from not being able to make a decision. If I make this decision, am I going down the wrong path? If I do this decision, then this will get me on the right path. That is not true at all. The decision is the doorway to an unknown path that you are going to go on. But that unknown path will always lead to something great. Now, your definition of great may not be the same as what greatness will come before you. And that's why you have to be fluid in life. You have to understand what is going on, the storms, as we talked about earlier. But when I make a decision, I'm going down a road, which ultimately will lead me to another decision marker that will get me to another road. So I was working on Running Point on Netflix with Kate Hudson. And I get a call from the NBA, say, hey, about this opportunity here in Dubai, right? So I'm sitting here working on a TV show, didn't know it was going to be this good. And there weren't a lot of production things going on in the process. I've always wanted to come to Dubai. Like I mentioned, I'm 48 years old. I'm getting this offer, and I'm saying to myself, I don't want to take a leadership position somewhere else. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I like my life. Talked about it. I'm a huge person with faith. Argued with the big guy upstairs. I'm like, come on now. You got to be kidding me. I got to go to Dubai. Argued for about 15 minutes, which is usually happens. When I say argue, I basically talk to myself. Sat down. I said, all right, let's go to Dubai. Not knowing what the job was for sure, the challenges that were going to come from it. I wasn't concerned about what I was getting. I was like, hey, what's the salary? What's the package? Great. I didn't even negotiate. I was like, I trust it. Let's go. And I made that decision. Now, in my mind, did I say, oh, man, I don't know. Did I make the right decision? No. I made the decision. It's the greatest decision in my life. The next decision I make will be the greatest decision in my life. Right? So I don't think I sacrificed. Have I missed time with family? 100%. Was I in and out of my kids' lives for 7 years because of my travel, my work? Yes. I missed holidays. I missed vacations. I missed weddings. But do those things for me define me? No, it's how I react to it afterwards. And if I miss time, I could justify it by saying I was doing this to get here. But I think there are certain decisions you have to make that you have to be okay with so that you can elevate yourself in order to help everybody around you. There's an interesting word, right? You talk about sacrifice, but so many of us talk about individual sacrifice. Well, I'll sacrifice myself for the better good for my kids. The thing is as a dad, as a mom, a parent, you are the greatest inspiration to their lives. As a parent, we're supposed to say, hey, you're going to be the best ever. But when your kid looks at you and says, well, how come you didn't believe in yourself? I know we all have our own personal stories. I know that. But what can we do to push ourselves a little bit more to continue to be the person that they see us as? And how can we be their hero for the rest of their lives?
How would you teach your players or your students to handle failure?
Embrace it. Embrace it and normalize it, and then notice the good that you're doing. Okay, so too many kids today, and I wouldn't even just say the players. I think people in general, we all play it safe. Nothing wrong with it, but it has to do a lot with how we are raised. I think I mentioned to you, my mom is from the Philippines, and there's this joke, but kind of truth, that Filipinos are all nurses. And even my age, my mom is still telling me, Mijo, why don't you go to nursing school? I said, Mom, you obviously don't know who I am, Mom. Right? But it's sort of that. I got to embrace the mistakes. And unfortunately, parents, society does not give any room for that. So if I'm practicing really hard, let's say ball handling, and I'm just being really comfortable and casual dribbling, and I don't lose the ball, you're not pushing yourself, right? You're not embracing the challenges, the chaos, the good that can come from it, right? So you have to embrace that thing. So once I embrace it, then it becomes normal. Now, when I say normal, that doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means that, okay, it allows my mind to say, okay, this is normal for me to make a mistake. Now, what can I do to improve it and get better? Which then comes the next part, noticing that I've made a mistake, but noticing the improvement I just made. Now, I've had an argument with people. They talk, well, if you notice it, then do you become delusional because you're that good? Well, you have to go through that process. If you're not making any mistakes and then you're normalizing that, that's counterproductive. You don't get any improvement. You don't get any movement on the meter. But if I'm making mistakes, I'm losing the ball, I'm taking extra shots, I'm missing a whole bunch of shots, I normalize saying that's part of my process. And then all of a sudden, I notice that I'm getting better, that I'm taking extra. I notice that I'm getting up early to go to the gym. I notice that all of a sudden, now you really start to see your growth. But that means us as parents, we can't talk about the game a whole lot. We can't talk about what you could have done better. You could guide them. You could share with them. But us as parents, we got to be more welcoming. We have to smile more. We can't show our disappointment. We can't get upset at coaches. We can't get upset at teammates. We have to teach our own kids how to handle the hard. When we do that, then we have a chance to be really good.
Who were your mentors? And during the toughest time, who was in your corner, or who is in your corner at always?
Yeah. So my mom, for sure. I always joke around, she's this short, crazy Filipina lady. So we grew up. So my mom had 8 kids in the Philippines, and then with her first husband, and then with my dad, me and my sister. And my mom is a very religious person. And she's so religious and so fluid in many ways. Like it is just, I'll give you a perfect example. Scammers call her all the time, and she thinks it's the funniest thing, right? My sister thinks it's the worst thing, and I'm like, oh, Mom, and when I say scammers, I mean like the real people who scam them for money. Luckily, I handle all the finance, so she's fine, right? But Mom has always given us, whether it's biblical verses, whether it's just breathing faith into me and my sister. So my mom has like just been that person, right? And when you're Filipino lady from the Philippines, have 10 kids, 3 of them that have passed. You were born during World War II. You just have this different toughness to you, right? That's that mom strength. My dad would be the other one. Now, as I mentioned earlier, didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad. It's because I didn't understand what the relationship was. He didn't talk much. He looked grumpy all the time. But I knew that he was always concerned and worried about me. And he was my mentor because it's not that I grew up saying, I don't want to be like my dad. It was more like he showed me glimpses of the power that I have as a dad. And now how can I respect his legacy? By being better, right? And that's like our lineage. That's our legacy with it. So my parents would be the two. My sister is a big mentor, my younger sister, because she loves her older brother, always looking out for me. She's scolding me for one thing, lecturing me for one thing, and then loving me up on another thing. And I see her strength as a mom. She has 3 kids, all different ages. And I see her strength, and that's a mentor for me. I've had Don Casey, former NBA coach. He's like a second dad to me. He helped me get in different career paths, pro basketball, college, etc. Joanne P. McCauley at Duke. I think what I have found is that I have so many different mentors because they've entered my life during that time. And they fed me what I was supposed to be fed. Joanne P. McCauley, Coach P, gave me the best college coaching job at Duke University ever. I went from not having a job to coaching at Duke. Who does that, right? Nancy Fade, Illinois. There's a huge list that I can have, but I know that I've learned from every single person I've come across from, because I'm really on this never-ending search on how can I be better? How can I improve? Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean my life is perfect. That doesn't mean that I'm like this person where I get up at 3 a.m., I take an ice cold bath, like all these morning. I don't do any of that stuff. I just really want to try. And I fail every single day in it. But I want to try to be that person. And I don't even know what that person looks like. But if I try, I make an effort, I may try really well on Monday and not really well on Tuesday, but if I give myself grace and I notice the changes that are happening, and I notice the changes that are happening with the people that I'm around, then I could sleep a little better. I could understand that I'm going through my purpose and my mission, and that I'm so lucky and blessed to have so many great people around me.